When it comes to card games, all of them have something in common. The player has to make all the decisions with the cards in their deck. But what if I told you that wasn't the case? With the rise of digital card games, the amount of mechanics offered to players has increased. There are so many new mechanics that are offered in a digital medium than in a paper medium. And Hearthstone is no exception. They have brought cards to life using brand new fun ideas that would only work in a digital space. A great example of this is Shifting Scroll, where every single turn this card is in your hand, it transforms into a random mage spell. Now this card could be done in real life, but imagine how much more tedious and how much more annoying this card would be, where in a digital space, this is so much more seamless and fun. And that's why with a digital space, card games can make cards that seem seemingly impossible. And that's exactly what Zephrys is, an impossible card. What makes Zephrys so special is that he does thinking for you. His text is, if your deck has no duplicates, wish for the perfect card. Perfect card can mean so many different things. If you need a board clear, a way to kill your opponent, or you just need a proactive play, Zephrys has the ability to give all of those to you. And that's what makes this card seem so impossible. The idea that a card itself can identify the context of the game and give you the perfect card based on that situation. When you play Zephrys, it doesn't just give you the perfect card. Zephrys gives you 3 cards in which it believes is the perfect card, and then it's up to the player to make the decision from there. So not only is this impossible card only giving you one option, it's giving you 3 options which it believes will win you the game. Now the interesting thought about Zephrys is that this can be done in almost any single digital card game. The technology is here to almost make autonomous cards play themselves, which is a really weird thought when it comes to a card game. You might be asking yourself, how does a card like Zephrys work? How was it designed, and how does it know what the perfect cards are? Well, let's go into the mind of Zephrys. As you could probably imagine, designing and creating an impossible card will take a lot more effort than something with a simple design like draw a card. In fact, this card took multiple years to get to the design that we see today. According to Celestion, one of the main designers of the card, Zephrys the Great required the most amount of development work and the largest team effort in the history of Hearthstone. A typical Hearthstone card has about 11 lines of code on average, where Zephrys the Great had over 1,000 lines of code, and that code only takes milliseconds to run and evaluate the player's board state. But how does Zephrys work? How does it know what the perfect cards are? The second you play this card, Zephrys considers the following things: both players' board state, your available mana after playing Zephrys, your available mana for the next turn, both players' health totals, both players' classes, both players' deck size, and how many cards are in your hand and your opponent's hand. Zephrys will also consider the amount of secrets the opponent has, the opponent's weapon if they have one equipped, and Zephrys can only use public information in his card offerings. As in, he can't use private information such as what cards are in your hand, because when you play Zephrys, he doesn't know that. A couple more interesting things about Zephrys is that he will always offer the player lethal if it's possible in the current turn. He will only offer cards that the player can play the same or the following turn, but tries to prioritize the same turn, and Zephrys can only look at the basic and classic cards to offer to the player. It is also important to note that Zephrys will not give the player a way to bounce him back to your hand to redo this effect. In other words, you can't wish for more wishes. If you want to learn more about how Zephrys works, I'm going to put the wiki page down below, but I warn you, this is a very lengthy wiki page and it'll probably take you the entire day to read. But one of the things I want to highlight is this line right here. No, not that line, Zephrys, this line. Zephrys is able to simulate what the game state looks like after some of Zephrys' offer cards are played on all possible targets. Zephrys then evaluates and compares the resulting game states after these targets have been tested. If I'm going to be honest, Zephrys is probably smarter than most players in this game, including me. To give you some context on how far Zephrys has come, here are different iterations of what the card used to be before it was officially released.
Peter's original concept was just, hey, what if we had a card that was just pick any card, add it to your hand? The original design had the problem of, okay, what does that mean? Do you have to type in a card name? Do we do like a really big Rolodex spinner that you flip through in the middle of the game? At some point it was like discover a class, then discover a cost, then discover a card. The big leap forward where we thought, okay, we can do this is when we switched to ideas that mostly revolved around Zephrys being smart in some way. It wasn't even necessarily a choice for a long time. Sometimes it was like Zephrys would be smart enough to detect what card in your deck was going to be the best card and draw the best card from your deck. At some point, it was also just add the best card from a huge range of cards to your hand.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, is the final version of Zephrys machine learning? And surprisingly, it's not.
People have asked if it's machine learning. It's not. It's a state prediction and comparison engine. Here's a general idea for how Zephrys works under the hood now. It takes a snapshot of the game state, just all the public info that you could walk up to someone's screen and see. And then it has this huge list of potential cards. We've written a function for each of them. And for each of these cards, it's like, okay, what will the game state look like after you play this card? When we get done with all these functions, we've got literally hundreds of potential game states. We've got ways to evaluate each of those. All the same things that we were tracking for the board state are things that we can evaluate the value of.
And all of that is happening when you play the card?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That all happens on the fly when you play the card.
When it comes to a card like Zephrys, this card is being consistently updated. There are new bugs that are found out. Sometimes Zephrys' decision making is wrong.
Oh my God. You know what he wants to do? I know exactly what he wants to do. Bro. Chat, you know what he wants to do? He wants to coin the... He wants to coin that 5-4 that upgrades the weapon. What? What?
And it was very helpful when players got to actually use Zephrys because they found out a bunch of new problems with the card that the developers could not test for. Just in the first month alone, look how many hotfixes Zephrys had to have just to make sure that the card was acting as it was supposed to. And the list keeps going on and on and on because this card was constantly being updated. Now the question has to be asked, is a card like Zephrys too powerful to be in a digital card game? What are the repercussions for building an effect like this, and how was this card used in order to abuse this effect? It goes without saying the effect on this card is extremely powerful, but the developers already knew that. And to compensate for this effect, they decided to put the requirement that your deck had to have no duplicates. The requirement of this card forced the players to have a little bit of a deck building challenge in order to use Zephrys optimally. But this didn't really contain Zephrys at all. This card was used in decks that had duplicates in it because the effect was so powerful. And the class that liked it the most was Rogue. Rogue has the card Shadow Step, which allows Zephrys to be bounced into their hand for a second wish. Even though Zephrys is a very powerful card, the one thing that does make him skillful is the player has to understand when to use him. And that's a huge benefit for players who have played this game for a long time. Zephrys offers you cards in the basic and classic set, but if you don't know what cards exist, how can you use this card optimally?
I think that the thing that makes me very happy with it in competitive play is just how skillful he is to play. It takes a lot of skill to really get the perfect card at the perfect time at the expense of potentially a different perfect card later on. So knowing how to use Zephrys best is really hard.
Right.
15, sorry. Yeah. So Zephrys could just be lethal here if the Soulfire does not discard Zephrys.
He's working through it in his head. He would survive a 1 health if he can find it.
If Leda was supposed to somehow fit in the Kobold Lackey possible there, starts off with a tap because the mana is there, and so he has the best chance of not discarding Zeph. Alutamu optimizing. What is the Soulfire gonna discard? Zephrys was playable. He does it! Oh my God, Derek. Just away from Leda, and Raven and Saldo were talking about how Alutamu has just had the best hero power.
And I've definitely seen the difference in our pro players making use of it.
And as smart as Zephrys is as a card, it definitely rewards players who have a huge knowledge base of Hearthstone.
We could trade in and set up a good flame strike.
Well, this is a good time to be behind and play a Zephrys. All right, Zephrys, I trust you. The perfect card.
Come on, Zephrys. Be like Ancient of War, flame strike, and we're all okay.
All right.
Put a lot of Zephrys.
Praise Zephrys.
That was pretty good.
But sometimes Zephrys is even smarter than the player and will offer the player cards they didn't even think about.
Well, actually, I was gonna Shadow Flame, but I guess I can Nova. What's he gonna do? I'm gonna Nova. Zephrys was smarter than me right there. I was like, I'm gonna Shadow Flame. I'm so smart. He bounced this, I can replay it, then I'm like, ooh.
Regardless of how you feel about Zephrys, you have to admit that this has got to be one of the coolest things ever to be released in a card game, if not the coolest. And I am very excited to see what card games come up with in the next couple of years. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it and have a nice day.